Welcome to the Bite-Sized Bible, where we look at the Bible from a literary point of view and seek to understand the story the Bible is telling. Last episode, we looked at the life of the patriarch Jacob and how he went from being called the trickster to being called Israel, the man who struggles with God and man and prevails, and how this new name gave him a new mission in life to bring order from chaos. As we've been going through the book of Genesis, we've been exploring this one theme of God creates order from chaos, and that when humans learn to listen to the voice of God and obey his call, they become co-creators with him in bringing order from chaos through an act of tikkun olam, or repairing the world. We are continuing the book of Genesis by looking at the next section, that of the story of Jacob's children. Now, I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer here. Some of the events we're about to go over are parts of the Bible where the Bible gets a little R-rated. Some of the events include instances of SA, extreme violence, and just all-around unsavory behavior. But that's because our theme of order from chaos comes into play here. The children of Jacob create chaos and threaten Jacob's mission of bringing order from chaos. But we have at least one story that has a happy ending. So let's get right into it. Jacob fathers 13 children from 4 different women, those being his wives of Leah and Rachel and their 2 servants that he ends up marrying later. He has 12 sons and only 1 daughter. Our story begins in Genesis chapter 34, where Prince Shechem of the Hivites sees Jacob's daughter Dinah as being very attractive and wants to wed her. So he goes to his father, King Hamor, to make his request. However, Prince Shechem's feelings for Dinah were more lust than they were love, and what ends up happening is that Prince Shechem Dinah. We've seen this narrative motif pop up elsewhere in the book of Genesis, where the women of the family are seen as attractive by the nations around them, and they take the women for themselves. 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, found out what happened with their sister, and they devise a plan. They know that Prince Shechem wants to marry their sister, so they give him an obligation. You can marry our sister if you and all the men of your kingdom are circumcised. This would, in essence, allow that kingdom to be like the children of Jacob, as they are all circumcised based on the covenant of Abraham. But it was all a ruse from Simeon and Levi in order to punish the Hivites for what they did to their sister. Prince Shechem agrees to their condition of being circumcised, both him and every man in his country. And after 3 days, the Bible describes that the pain of circumcision is at its greatest. The Hivites are vulnerable. And it is now where Simeon and Levi invade the city and kill all of the men. Jacob's sons are acting like how Jacob used to, as tricksters. They are not yet on the path of bringing order from chaos, so they create chaos. Their father Jacob learns of what they did with the Hivites, and he is not pleased, telling his sons. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me stink to the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. My numbers are few, and if they gather themselves against me and attack me, I shall be destroyed, both I and my household." But they said, "Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?" Jacob was on a new mission to bring order from chaos, now being called Israel. But his sons were threatening that mission. After this, Jacob's father Isaac and his beloved wife Rachel both die. Rachel dies in childbirth, bearing her second child, Benjamin, her first child being Joseph. Now, if you remember from last episode, Rachel was barren and was unable to have children and was jealous of her older sister Leah, who was having many children for Jacob. But God heard her cry and opened her womb to have children. Jacob is now in a state of grief after the death of his father Isaac and his beloved wife Rachel. He buries Rachel in an unmarked tomb, which according to Jewish tradition is somewhere around Hebron, near Jerusalem. But to make matters worse, Jacob's firstborn son Reuben sleeps with Jacob's wife Bilhah, the servant of Rachel. This comes back into play towards the end of the book of Genesis when Jacob is on his deathbed and giving his blessings to all of his sons. And to Reuben, he says, "Unstable as water, you shall not have preeminence, because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch." The next son of Jacob we're going to talk about is Judah. Now, Judah is a very important character throughout the rest of the book of Genesis, but it's here in this story where we see him go from living one way to living another, and his character development is beginning. Just like the other sons of Jacob, Judah was threatening Jacob's mission of bringing order from chaos, and here's what happened. Judah had 3 sons, Onan, and Shelah. Was married to a woman named Tamar, but was killed by God because of how wicked and sinful he was. That's really all the Bible has to say on it. It doesn't elaborate further as to anything he actually did. According to biblical cultural tradition, when a man dies and he leaves his wife childless and widowed, his wife is to marry his brother and procure offspring on his behalf through his brother. That way, the deceased man spiritually has a child through his brother, and so his family name can live on. But brother Onan did not want to have a child with Tamar, and he did some things to prevent this from happening. I'll let you go and read it for yourselves because it's kinda gross. For Onan's refusal to have a child with Tamar, God also strikes him dead for sinning against him and his brother, as it was the first command God gave to humans, be fruitful and multiply. Now that and Onan are dead, Shelah is the last son of Judah remaining, but he's a little on the young side. He's just a child right now. So Judah asked Tamar just to wait until he's grown up before marrying him. It is possible that Judah may have an idea that she's some kind of black widow. Every man she's ever been with dies, and he didn't want to see his last son die. But while waiting for Shelah to grow up, at some point, Judah's own wife dies. We don't really know why. The Bible isn't clear on why or how she died. It just says that she died. But Tamar can't wait any longer. She wants to procure offspring from the house of Judah, so she devises a plan. She will disguise herself as a prostitute, go into the city, and attempt to seduce Judah. Judah ends up meeting up with her, but he does not know that this is Tamar. She is in disguise. He thinks he's just hiring a prostitute. And to pay her for her services, Judah gives her his staff, his signet ring, and his cord. Tamar ends up pregnant by Judah from this encounter, but remember, she is widowed and she is unmarried, so her pregnancy is seen as a crime. When she is put on trial, she is asked to identify the man who did this, and she says, "The man who gave me these things is the man who got me pregnant," and they were Judah's staff, signet ring, and his cord, exposing Judah for the act. Judah is also a widower and unmarried, so he is guilty of the same crime of sexual immorality. But what Judah does is remarkable. Instead of trying to lie his way out of it, or try and throw the whole trial, or just accuse Tamar that she slept with somebody else, Judah owns up to it. He confesses that it was in fact him who slept with Tamar and got her pregnant. Then Judah identified them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he did not know her again." This event in Judah's life is incredibly important for his character, because when we get to the story of Joseph, we're going to see how Judah also responds to Joseph. And it was this moment right here where Judah became the first example of true, genuine repentance. Genuine repentance is defined by a few things. Number 1, confessing the act. Number 2, resolving never to do the same act again. 3, seeking forgiveness from both God and if you offended somebody by your sin. And 4th, and this is the most telling sign of true repentance, when given the opportunity to commit the same sin again, you do not. Remember that last one for when we're looking at the story of Joseph next episode. But this moment changed Judah, and it set him on a path to become a co-creator with God in bringing order from chaos. As we've explored the story of the children of Jacob, we see how they are creators of chaos, but Judah is the one who is set on the path to create order from chaos. And in the next episode, when we look at Jacob's son Joseph and his life, we're going to see how order is made from chaos and see the climactic conclusion to the narrative of Genesis. Like and subscribe for part 5.